Good morning, I'm Kristin Omdahl and welcome back to Yarn on the Beach. Today we are going to do some crafting. I'm going to be crocheting, but please bring your yarn and craft with me. If you would like to bring a beverage and just chat with me, or just enjoy this magnificent sunrise on the beach, however you'd like to join me, you're always welcome. If you have any questions, I will try to reply to the comments as best as I can. And today I'm going to be working on Delta Stitch in Rows. Miss Detroit, good morning. Thanks for joining me. Last week I worked on Delta Flower Stitch in rounds and did a tutorial video on it and a pattern for a hat. And today I'm starting on a project done in rows for Delta Stitch. Good morning, KB Fibers. And I will be posting the free pattern plus chart, which is already done and ready to go live on my website as soon as the tutorial video is done, the step out photos for a photo tutorial are done, and the project is finished. Hi Faith, thanks for joining. Thank you, Miss Detroit. Yes, I had a nice Christmas. How was yours? Hi Annie, good morning. Merry Christmas to you too, thank you. The parking lot was full when I got here this morning and I was a little nervous because at 7:30 there wasn't a single spot available, so I did have to wait a little bit for a parking space. Hopefully that doesn't happen very often. Good morning, Cheryl from Australia. Merry Christmas to you too. Yes, I had a nice Christmas. Thank you. I did sneak a little work in though, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, went to Michigan. Very nice. Hopefully you got to see some snow and had a white Christmas. I actually made the chart for this stitch pattern yesterday in between functions. We went to a brunch and a dinner, and in between those I worked on the chart to get this. Well, I worked on the chart and the pattern. But as an entrepreneur, it's really important to always find little pockets of time, little pockets of downtime to get things done. Good, I'm glad it was a beautiful white Christmas. Oh, so going back to the scarf that I'm making for the Delta Flower Stitch in Rows, I've decided to do it in the cream color of, which is called Cloud, of Be So Tender yarn, because I'm going to dip dye it when it's done. Dip dyeing meaning once the scarf is complete, I'm going to dip sections of it in dye, probably natural dye, because that might be fun since it's already organic cotton. And so it's going to be a multi-tutorial. I'm going to show you how to make the scarf and then show you how to dye natural plant-based fibers with it as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, Jenny says she used to dye, she had an alpaca farm. How fun. I love alpaca. Still working on my setup row, trying to decide how wide I want my scarf to be. I think I'm almost done. Good morning, Anna Maria. She's joining from Italy. Welcome. Okay, it's probably wide enough. We'll do one more. Or one more repeat. Oh, thank you, Fate. I'm glad you like the scarf so far. Oh, you mean mine, maybe. Can you teach thread crochet? Yeah, I do a lot of fine weight yarns. I think that's what you mean by that. In fact, one of my yarns, Be So Fine, is a fingering weight, and I think that a lot of that is I think that's a very similar weight to what you're talking about. So you mean like, do you mean traditional thread, or do you mean just lace in a fine weight yarn? It's a little chillier down here than the last couple of days. I think it's 50 degrees out here this morning, but 50 and windy. A little chillier. I wish I would have brought my winter coat. Okay, now my setup row's done. Good morning, Gail. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you too. Jenny, it is beautiful here. Thanks for joining. I am obsessed with the color palette that we see here in the morning. We've got that golden peach and pinky coral, pale blue and pale turquoise. Love it. And there's nothing quite like the sound of the waves. Thank you, Fate. I had a nice Christmas. How was yours? Okay, we have our first petal, our first 2 petals. I'll show you what each row looks like as I finish it. If anybody else is crafting this morning, tell me what you're working on. Oh, and by the way, last week I had talked about the fact that we will see Dolphin from time to time here, and that I was just hoping that I could share them with you sooner than later. I no sooner turned the camera off, what was it, 2 days ago? Saturday, the last day, and there were 4 dolphin after I turned the camera off. I was so bummed. Not bummed for me, bummed for all of you. I want to share it with you. I just saw someone say it's 20 degrees in Pennsylvania. I hope you are indoors and bundled up and comfy cozy. What kind of natural plants dyeing are you going to use? I have a whole bunch at home. I bought a bunch from a supplier. I have indigo and lots of other herb-based plant natural dyes. But what I've also done is made dyes in the past from produce. One of the prettiest colors I ever made was made out of onion skins. It's a very golden, it was a gold color actually. So that one was really pretty. What else? Beets make a beautiful color. Red cabbage makes a beautiful color. What else? I didn't have any success with basil. Basil was supposed to turn out blue and it didn't. It didn't make sense either. What else? I think those are the only ones that I tried that I had. Oh, I read to try artichoke, and that did not turn out for me either. But the onion was just stunningly gorgeous, and obviously beet, but that's a no-brainer. Beet should be gorgeous. And as far as the dried natural dyes that I found, indigo is by far the most powerful. But I'll show you a lot more when we get around to doing those tutorials. There's a lot of information out there, and dyeing plant-based fibers, your cottons, bamboos, linens, all the plant-based or cellulose-based, it's a lot easier to dye them, or a lot less complicated to dye them than animal fibers. You don't need to boil it at all. You can do it without getting it super hot. So I find that it's just a nice, easy way to get started at dyeing. So I think it'll be either a fun tutorial or a fun series of tutorials. Hello from England. Thank you for joining me. I'm so glad you're enjoying the sound of the waves. It's lovely, just lovely. Oh, we've got our bird friends back. Annie's asking how we keep a wooden crochet hook from breaking. I have never had a wood crochet hook break on me before. I have broken wood knitting needles before, but I've never broken a wooden crochet hook before. I suppose you just don't want to put any leverage on it that puts this side separate from that. And the way that I crochet, I'm never putting any pressure in the center. I don't know, I guess don't sit on it, don't put it in a bag where it's not safe. Those would be ways that I think you could definitely break one. But I have never had any trouble with them in all the years that I've been crocheting with wood or bamboo. Or plastic for that matter. I don't think I've ever broken one. Good morning from Morocco. That's wonderful. I would love to go to Morocco one day. Gail says sage and dried mustard make pretty dyes. Oh, I bet they do. Annie's knitting on an Indian scarf for her mom. That's nice. Sprinkle of this is asking, what is my creative process for beginners? I'm not entirely sure. Good morning, Shirley. I'm not entirely sure I understand the question, but creative process, I think we all have a creativity inside of us, and I think it's just being open-minded and allowing it to come out, and everybody can be creative at any time. How to get started at any particular craft, you know, good tutorials and practice, lots of practice. And being open-minded to learning. So that's my general basic answer, and if you want to be more specific about your question, I'd be happy to answer you with more details. After I have 9 stitches on my hook. I literally just dropped all these. But picked them back up. Yay, me. Shirley's asking what I am making. I am making a Delta Stitch flower scarf. It's the stitch pattern that I taught last week for crocheting in the round to make a hat, and this week I'm going to be making it in rows, not rounds, and ultimately making a scarf out of it. How you work the stitches for Delta flower stitch in rows and rounds is different. And so it does require the 2 different types of charts and the 2 different types of tutorials. And both are gorgeous. And now, actually, it could go even further than that, because I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the stitch in rows that don't have increases or decreases. If you wanted to increase or decrease this stitch pattern to make triangular shawls or anything with shape, that's a whole separate tutorial. Or separate for each, knitting, increasing and decreasing. Yes, Shirley, that will be an easy transition to teach you how to increase and decrease in this too. See, Janet is going to learn how to do an S Loom. I don't believe I know what an S Loom is. Is that for weaving or is that like knitting looms? Okay, almost done with row 1. After row 2 that you'll start to see flowers. I have a crazy idea for dyeing this scarf though. I was thinking that doing spot dyeing, like just in the center of the flower petals, would be really gorgeous. So it would be all white flowers where the centers are a color and then bleed out as you go. Knitting. Oh wow, it can go as wide as 60 inches. That sounds cool. That's the answer to what an S Loom is. Jenny's asking when I learned how to knit and crochet and if I learned them at the same time. And I was pregnant and living overseas with my son, who's now 15, so it was 16 years ago. And I taught myself how to knit and crochet to make baby booties, and then moved on to baby layettes, meaning the hat, booties, sweater, and blanket combos. And then once he was born, I just didn't want to stop and continued to knit and crochet, and without any access to the internet or the wealth of patterns that are available out there now, I decided to use my math skills to design shawls, to design triangular shawls in different shapes. And so that's when, so I not only learned how to knit and crochet at the same time, but I also learned how to design out of my head, if that makes sense. So here's the first row done. Now when we do the second row, you'll start to see those 6-petaled flowers much easier. And another question came up while I was answering that one, and I did not see it. I'm sorry. Okay, we've got the start of the second row. Next stitch I think you'll see a flower in the second stitch. can see a flower. Isn't that pretty? Good morning. I wish I got a ding when a message was coming up. I think I'm missing some of them and I apologize for that. Shirley likes to cross stitch. That was actually the first craft that I did as a kid. I used to like to do stamped cross stitch patterns. I didn't even know what counted cross stitch was till someone asked me if I did that too years later. The only thing that I knew about was the stamped one, but I loved it. I did latch hook rugs too when I was a kid, but my favorite was cross stitch. And some embroidery from there. Oh, thanks, Faye. She says I'm talented for crocheting and talking at the same time. Comes from lots and lots of experience. And all the years of doing demos at shows too. Thanks, Gail. I like the fact that you appreciate the idea. We'll see if it works, but what I was thinking is to just do a drop, like once it's wet, so you could do a drop of dye in the center of the flowers and then let it bleed out so it'd be kind of ombre or gradient. I think it might be cool. It'll either be amazing or it'll be botched, right? You don't know what you know until you know it. And you learn from your mistakes. Oh, paper twirling, that's really pretty too. I've seen it in books. I have not seen it in person, but it looks like a lot of fun. Joanne is asking what I'm working on this morning. I'm working on a scarf sample to teach a tutorial on Delta flower stitch in rows. I taught a tutorial last week on how to do Delta flower stitch in rounds and shared a free hat pattern, and today I'm showing how to do that stitch pattern in rows and creating a scarf out of it. Because how you work Delta flower stitch in rows is different than in rounds. Shirley says she thinks this would make a great pattern for a dress top bodice. Actually, I've made an entire dress out of this stitch pattern. These clusters are done in double treble stitch, and what I did is I started at the yoke and I did this stitch pattern in a half double crochet version, then a double crochet version, then a treble crochet, then a double treble crochet, and as it grew the yoke of the dress, and then once I went past the bust, I made them even longer stitches and created the skirt. So the entire dress was done in Delta flower stitch, just variations of it to create the growth. It got dropped from one of my books years ago and never got published, but I think as soon as it makes sense for one of the themes of my new books that I'm working on now, I will be bringing it back out again because it was spectacular. I did it in red and I wore it for the holiday season the year that I made it. I want to say that was probably 9 years ago. tied a new ball of yarn on here. Shirley's just started designing and is making a dress, it sounds like. I missed the end of the comment, sorry. Good morning from Nashville. Thanks for watching. You know, I'm kind of regretting starting this as the narrow edge and working that way. I think this might have been really pretty to work, making the foundation row the whole length of the scarf and working only a few rows. I think that might have been a better idea. We'll see what happens in the next couple of rows, but I might be unraveling. It happens. Rather get it right. Morning, Viv. Thanks for watching. Shirley's correcting an autocorrect, and I'm not sure what it was. Any comments that come up after this goes to broadcast, I definitely... Oh, Hazel's got a good idea. Don't unravel it. Use it to do the spot dyeing anyway. That's a good idea. Here is the second row complete. It would make a beautiful washcloth too, wouldn't it? If you were giving a nice gift for a shower or something, you could give them some beautiful organic bar soap, or a bottle of Rapture, or any kind of like a spa gift. And this would, if you just kept going and doing this as a square, that would actually be a beautiful fancy washcloth with organic cotton. Beautiful. Yeah, maybe we will keep it and just do a washcloth instead of a scarf. Yeah. So thank you. Isn't that fun? We got to collaborate this morning. I love that. Oh, which reminds me, I had mentioned the idea of doing a live broadcast while I make dinner once in a while. My idea was, like, you know, when you're making dinner and you have a friend sitting at the counter or sitting at your island or sitting at your table while you're cooking, I thought it'd be really fun to set up the camera so that we could be chatting while I'm making dinner like you were a guest at my house. And I thought part of it would be just for chatting and hanging out, and then the other part would be the fact that I could teach some of what I find to be my most valuable skills in the kitchen is learning how to adapt. I said that incorrectly, but one of the skills that I think I'm the strongest in the kitchen is learning how to adapt. Anybody can read a recipe, but what do you do when something goes awry? You missed an ingredient, you don't like an ingredient. How do you adapt a recipe for your family, for your wishes, for your budget? All of those things. Or something just went awry while you're cooking. I think it will be really fun to show you how I wing it, because that you can't learn from a cookbook. So between chatting and interacting and just having fun, you can also see how I wing it as I'm going. So I thought we might try that once in a while. And the response was very positive when I suggested it last week, so I appreciate all the collaboration on stuff like that too. It's so fun to know what you want. I'm happy to give you what you want when I know what you want. That's why I'm always open to suggestions on tutorials. It's great to be able to give you the type of things that you want. Sometimes you don't know what you want until you see it. So like anybody who was introduced to the Delta stitch last week, you didn't know you wanted it till you saw it. Oh, Jenny used one of my pork recipes from a couple years ago. I'm so glad. Was it the French onion one? Yeah, Shirley, definitely. How to adjust your seasonings as you go is huge too. I like to layer seasoning. I add very little, if any, salt at the beginning of a dish, and I add it as I go. That's a great example of how you adapt as you go, definitely. Or if something turns out too sweet, too spicy, too salty, what do you do? Definitely good things to learn along the way. It had a sweet sauce. I don't recall it. Oh, was it pineapple salsa? I think it might have been a pineapple pork dish that I made. I love making salsas I make salsa with tomato too. I do the traditional one, but I love making fruit salsas where you replace the tomato with mango or pineapple. Those are some of my favorites, especially for fish, but good for pork too. But I make a lot of fresh marinades, fresh sauces, make all my own salad dressings. Once you know how to do it, it's just easy. Oh good, I'm glad we figured it out, Jenny. With a couple of hints, I can usually figure something out. Comes from lots of questions though. I get asked all the time. Oh, Luminita, I'm so glad you were able to make it to the live. Welcome, good morning from Romania. Wow, that's great. I'm so glad you could join. I think we've seen people from all over the world. Yeah, if it's too spicy, you can add coconut milk or cream. Yep, you could do that too. I'm a big fan of adding lemon or lime when I think something needs a little something. I'm one of those people that can buy the bulk size bag of lemons, limes, or garlic at Costco and never never throw them out because they don't get spoiled. We go through it at my house. We eat an extraordinary amount of fresh citrus and fresh garlic. But almost every salad dressing has citrus and garlic in it, even if I'm doing a homemade Caesar dressing, which is Marlon's favorite. Thanks everybody for chiming in. Yeah, I think we probably all do a lot of the same stuff. It'll just be fun to share and collaborate together even more. So you can see the flowers are really starting to pop now, and that they are offset. Isn't that beautiful? Maybe you can see better with the water behind. Yeah. The lighting's a little funky for showing this, but I'll take photos of it for the tutorial and you'll see it much better then. You notice how quick it is for moving though, once you learn how to do the stitch? And you know, learning how to do a cluster stitch of 9 double trebles takes a learning. Oh yeah, Sandy, I've made a shawl out of this stitch pattern before too. Jessica Simpson wore one years and years ago, and maybe about 14 years ago, and that's and I did a version of that. That was how I learned this stitch, making a triangular shawl, which again is a different stitch pattern. Learning how to increase or decrease in this pattern is different from just working even in rows as well. Here comes the sun. I like how bold and graphic the texture is. Like, I like it even if you did larger than a double treble base. This is yarn over 3 times double treble base, but if you did yarn over 4 or 5 times, it would even be more graphic with more negative space between the flowers. That's, I think, my favorite way to do this stitch pattern. But you got to start somewhere and learn somewhere, so I thought double treble was at least a familiar enough base to start to learn it. And like I said earlier, you could do this in a double crochet base or a half double crochet base. You could do it in any base stitch. The technique is the same. It just depends on how many yarn overs you start your stitches at, and the accompanying number of chains for the beginning. The chain equivalent of a double treble is a chain 5, so that's what I'm doing for this one. I think this is the first day we haven't seen fog at all since I started Yarn on the Beach. Okay, I'm going to finish this stitch, then set my work down and give everyone an opportunity to get my undivided attention for any last comments or questions. And we'll wrap it up here in the next couple of minutes and go about our days. Or our day, I don't know how you say that. Okay, so. Hi Lee, thanks for joining. She was asking about how you design as much as I do, and it's just experimentation. And just like with cooking, once you get the foundation and the base work of anything, you can always just add to it. So once you learn how to do one thing, you build on your skills. So it comes with practice and time and, you know, being experimental and curious. Wow, the sun's bright today. It's nice though. Does anybody else have any questions before we say goodbye? Good morning, Judy. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Jenny. I'm glad you had fun. Thanks, Robin. Glad you had fun. Sandy, thank you. KB, have a great day. Thanks for wishing everyone a great day. That's nice. Yeah, or night. Love that we've had people joining us from all over the world. So have a great day or a great night, depending on where you're at. I'm sure some people will be shopping today. Shirley's off to bed. Good night, Shirley. Judy, I'm glad you're enjoying the sun. Thank you. Lee, you missed the broadcasts. You need to sign up for notifications, like where you hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. There's a bell there, and if you click on that, you'll get notified for the live broadcasts. I do them generally around the same time every morning, Monday through Saturday, but if you want to get notified, you have to sign up for notifications on my YouTube channel. If you need any help with that, send me a message after the show and I will try to help you. Luminita, bye, have a great day. Peacock Crochet, thank you for joining me, have a great day. Okay, good, so that's how you're getting it live now. Okay, good job, Leah. Okay, Joanne, have a good day at work. I have a lot to do today myself and gotta get going now, but thank you all for joining me and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!